Welcome back everyone to the Hello World Guide. This is another episode of the Raycasting series, and in this video we are going to implement some more functionalities for our monster state machine by implementing some functionality for the monster AI for chasing the player and also for a proper monster death animation as well. So for this we are going to go ahead and first of all we are going to have a better animation system. So we are going to open up animation.h, and in here we have created an enum which is known as finish action. So whenever an animation finishes playing, we can do one of three things. Either we do nothing and just stop where the animation is, or we can just loop the same animation, or we can switch to the last animation. Earlier we had a single boolean that only has these two states, but now we have got this none state here as well, and this represents our finish action, which happens when the animation finishes. So the animator now does not use a boolean or looping or last looping or anything of that sort. Instead we have got a finish action here which is called action. So what we do is when we are setting our animation, we get our finish action, new action, which is by default set to none, and we set our last action to this action, and we set our action to new action here. You can see just like we were doing earlier, and the only thing that has changed is that when we are updating, we check if our action is looping. If it is, then we just have the time go back. Otherwise, if our animation is set to last, we switch to the last animation, and otherwise if it's none, then we don't do anything, because that means that the last frame will just be displayed forever. So yeah, that's pretty much all we need to do to have this work correctly. So let's now go ahead and take a look at thing.cpp, where we have got our monster functionality. So here we have got a new state for the monster, which is the state dead. So when we are updating the monster, we check if the animation state is equal to dead, and if it is, we just return, because we don't want to do anything if the monster is dead. Now what we do is that we get the monster's angle, convert that to radians, and we calculate the monster direction. Then we get the player and calculate the direction to the player, just like we were doing earlier. And then we use the think time, and the think time earlier we were using for displaying that sound, but for the action sound, but this time we are going to use it for something a bit different, which is that we are going to use it through kind of make the monster face the player correctly, because earlier on we were just facing the player every frame, which looked a bit less natural, because the monster had 100% responsiveness, which is not very realistic. So what we do is that with this time is set to, you can see, a random number between 0.5 and 1. So after a delay of 0.5 to 1 second randomly, the monster will update its state, update the direction actually. So we check if our animation is run, and if it is, then we go ahead and set our angle using the 8 and 2 function, and this only happens if our time is less than or equal to 0, which means it only happens after a certain interval. And for displaying the sound, we actually generate a random number between 0 and 10, which means it will be from 0 to 9, and if it's greater than 7, which means there's just a very small chance that this sound will play. So this is also based on a bit of a random calculation. And after this, what we do is we check if our animation state is idle, and if it is, then we do the checking that we were doing earlier, just the same way. And this time we use the finish action loop here, of course, instead of saying true. And if it is equal to the run state, then we just move in whatever the forward direction is with the speed of 2. And for example, if the player suddenly goes to a different position, the monster will kind of take a little bit of while before it turns around, which is a bit more natural. Now on the on damage function, we do a bit we do these things a bit differently. When we take damage and we are not dead, so our health is not less than or equal to 0, we just set the animation to run with the looping one, and then we set it to pain immediately, just like we were doing earlier, but this time we use the finish action last, so that it switches after displaying the pain animation, it will switch back to the run one. And if our health is less than or equal to 0, then we just don't destroy the thing, because that doesn't look very natural. Instead we set its size to 0, then we set its directional value to false. After that we set the base animation. Actually we don't actually need to do that. What we do is we set the animation to state dead, and we leave the the new action at default, which is the finish action none, which means that after displaying the dead animation, the monster will stay there and nothing else will happen. And of course, in our thing definitions, we have got the appropriate sprites here for the animation. We have got the proper animation definition for all of the monster death frames, which again you can find on the GitHub repo. So this is going to actually do that. It's going to get the monster and display the death state correctly. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this works. So you can see I can run make, and you can see that the monster is there, and I can go ahead and shoot the monster. And if I shoot the monster 5 times, you can see that the monster displays its death animation and then it stays there. We also set the size and the directional to off, because well, the monster is not directional anymore, and the size is also 0, which means that we can pass through the monster and there is no collision. So because monster dead body will not have any collision at all. So anyways guys, this is going to be pretty much it for this video, and in this video we have got this basic state setup, and in the next video we are going to go ahead and implement some sort of pathfinding algorithm, because currently if I go under the 2D view and let me just go to the actual game state. So if I turn on the game state, you can see that I can go and the monster starts to chase me, but if I go for example like this, the monster actually just bumps into the wall, and if I for example go to here, the monster can't actually reach me. You can see that it just tries to slide around, and there is no proper pathfinding algorithm. So that's something that we need to do, which we'll be doing in the next video, so stay tuned for that. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss that one, and share this video with other people as well, and I'll see you in the next one, and bye.